right up to that thing. That's still not. Get a good spot. I gotta watch it. Other people in the room there.
Music red. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Island Harpole, and I'm a fife sergeant here with the Fifes and Drums of Yorktown. Now, before we get started, does anybody know the primary use of the fifers and drummers during the time of the revolution? Yes? That's exactly correct. So with all the gunfire, gun smoke, and men shouting, it was also almost impossible to hear your commanding officer. So, to solve this problem, each commanding officer would have with him one fifer and one drummer. He would tell the fifer and drummer the tune, and they would play the corresponding, he would tell them the signal, and they'd play the corresponding tune. So within seconds, everybody across the battlefield knew what was going on. Such as go for wood, go for water, retreat, fire, and other various tunes. Now, along with this, they were also around camp to boost the morale of soldiers. Now, the first tune that we're going to play for you is called the Reveille, or Time to Wake Up. Now, to talk to you a little bit about the fife, I'd like to bring forward Sergeant Fifer Luke Brooks.
The fife, the 18th century fife, is a very simple wooden instrument invented by the Swiss in around the 14th century. It consists of a hollow wooden tube around 16 to 17 inches in length with a series of 7 holes, 6 for the fingers and 1 for the mouth. At the upper end of the fife, closest to the mouth hole, there is a cork installed, so that when you blow across the mouth hole, the cork forces the air that you blow down the instrument in a spiral-like motion, which creates a sound. You can change the pitch of this sound by changing the placement of your fingers on the finger holes. And although, as mentioned before, the fife is a very simple instrument, it is still capable of playing up to a full 3 octaves, which I would now like to demonstrate. Thank you.
Once again, my name is Ben Getz, and I'm a corporal drummer here with the Fifes Drums of Yorktown. I'd like to talk to you about the 18th century rope tension snare drum. Now, the snare drum consists of a hollow shell, usually made from ash, maple, oak, or any other hardwoods that were grown locally. On either end of this shell are these two red wooden counter hoops, which are connected by about 40 feet of rope and 10 of these leather clasps called ears. By moving these ears up and down, it pulls the ropes together, which pulls the counter hoops together, which provides the tension needed to play the style of drum. During the time of the Revolution, the heads would have usually been made of calfskin, but today we use synthetics like Nylar and Kevlar. Speaking of the heads, the top head is called the batter head, it's the one we play on, and the bottom head is called the snare head. It gets its name from these cords you can see running across the bottom called snares. These snares rattle when the drum is played, giving it its crisp, unique sound that can be heard all across the battlefield. When these snares were loosened, the drum would have a much deeper and more mellow sound. It would be used this way at more somber occasions like funerals and, of course, executions. Now, on the drum we play rudiments such as the flam, the rough, the paradiddle, and of course the double stroke roll. When you put these rudiments together, you get a simple beat. Thank you.
Welcome home. Now, a little bit more about the uniforms you see us wearing. I'd like to bring forward Corporal Viper Gabe Buchanan.
Good morning. I'd like to start with the Junior Corps, or those of us in blue. They're wearing what an average citizen would have been wearing at the time of the American Revolution, and their uniform consists of black shoes, stockings, knee breeches, a plain shirt, and a waistcoat or a waistcoat. They also have a tricorn hat, tri meaning three, and corn short for corner. After several years of study, they will advance to the Senior Corps, or those of us in the red. Now at the time, a Continental soldier would have a wool regimental like this one, with a blue body, and then the color of the lapel would represent which area of the colonies that soldier was from. As we are in Virginia, that means we are in the mid-Atlantic region, and we would have worn red for our lapel color. However, as we are musicians, it was considered bad form to kill us because we were our opponent's means of communication and our means of communication. That's because war was still considered a gentleman's game at the time. So to signify ourselves as neutral non-combatants, we would wear the opposite colors of our unit. So if the Virginia Continental Line was wearing blue coats with red facings, we would in turn wear red coats with blue facings, which just happens to bear a striking resemblance to the English uniforms that were worn at the time. We also have some cool stuff going on our hat. We have this cockade, or this brightly colored patch of cloth, which at the time signified a soldier's country of origin, but today we use it in our rank structure. And lastly, we have these tassels. although they are quite decorative, they do serve a practical purpose. When it rains, our hats tend to quickly fill up with water, and these tassels soak up that water and drip it onto our shoulders. So that when we go to give our commanding officer a salute, we do not throw a hat full of water in his face. Thank you.
Senior corps. Hudson. Good. First aid. Now, before we go, do you have any questions? Yes.
Why do they use different types of drums?
Why do we have a bass drum? So we have our snare drums, which was commonly used throughout the war, and then our bass drum to give us to the another octave down. So we have all the fife through the snare drum through the bass drum.
To be perfectly historically accurate, the snare drums were from the Revolutionary times, and the bass drum was slightly later. But to make the music sound really full, we add this bottom voice to the drum section, and it sounds really good. And all modern fife and drum corps, even if they're portraying earlier times, will use the bass drum. It's such a great sound. That was a good question.
Any other questions?
Would a woman have served?
No. So her question was, would a woman have served? And during the time of the Revolution, no, they would not have.
Hey, stop it.
Hopefully not, because of the way that they are the opposite color. If they try, if you can good to try not to shoot them, hopefully. And I'm sure there were some inadvertent casualties. No. One of the things they could signal was surrender or retreat. So that would be good for the enemy. So you didn't want to take them out just for that. Yeah.
Why is your staff that?
Why is my staff? So this is a mace. During the time of the Revolution, they would not be carrying a mace, but today we use it so I can signal down the line to all of them. So we have, this is about the normal size. They can go shorter or smaller depending on your leader.
And if you're in the back of the formation, you can't always see hand signals, but you can see a big giant stick over the drum major's head, so that helps a lot.
Any last one? So the last tune we're gonna play for y'all is Yankee Doodle, and the world turned upside down.
Concludes our performance. Thank you all for being such a great audience. Enjoy the rest of your day in historic Yorktown. How about one more round of applause?
Immediate right wheel. Front. One.
I want to talk about something up here on the camera. Do a selfie thing. Hi, this is Grandpa and Ella doing Yorktown. We just finished watching the Continental drummers come through and do a session. What I wanted to bring up was, can you imagine back in the day when this was a war zone and there was redoubts piled up there in all different areas, and kids basically coming to do their first duty in war, and they would have been sitting here with their guns that they probably only fired a few times, hiding behind the redoubts and looking across the river at these giant ships over there that the British had, and they would have these guys would have had to listen, and when they hear the drum, that would tell them what they had to do. But so often they would be laying down there just waiting for something to happen, and when you heard those drums start to pound, I can imagine what that would have done to their nerves, because they know that any second now there's going to be some soldiers coming across and firing in their direction, and they're going to have to fire and shoot other people. And if you just came off of a farm, suddenly got thrown into the war, that must have been pretty terrifying. So we're here at the monument for that, right on the river, right on the York River here. Ella does Yorktown. Let's see, I can't read that. At York on October 19th, 1781 after a siege of 19 days by 5,500 American and 7,000 French troops of the Line 3,500 Virginia militia under command of General Thomas Nelson and 36 French ships of war. Earl Cornwallis, commander of the British forces at work, and Gloucester surrounded his army. 7,251 officers and men, 840 seamen, 244 cannons, and 24 standards to His Excellency George Washington, Commander-in-Chief of the Combined Forces of America and France, to His Excellency the Comte de Rochambeau, commanding the auxiliary troops of His Most Christian Majesty in America, and to His Excellency the Comte de Grasse, Commanding-in-Chief the Naval Army of France in Chesapeake. Wow, pretty crazy. Now it's Lahaina Town having burned up in Hawaii. This is the story of Yorktown, heavily damaged during the siege of 1781. Many residents abandoned the property. Those who stayed demolished damaged buildings and repaired others. Everyday life reemerged on March 3rd, 1814. Another disaster struck. Hot fire again. Oh boy. History. Hiding from the heat. We need the coastal thirst. We got some grilled bacon and cheese sandwiches coming. Some water for Butch, who's going crazy because there's so many dogs around. But he's doing pretty good. He's good doing it. So we also got this watermelon, cucumber, lemon, mint. Butch, stop that. Grandpa and Ella doing Yorktown, having our lunch break. Grilled cheese and bacon sandwich, yummy.